Hi guys, just give me a second to set up my camera because oh, if you ever just have one of them days. Alright. I don't think we have any wires in the way. That's good. This is just the base of my lamp. And let's see. Maybe we can go a little bit closer in. That's looking good. If you're here, come on in and say hello. I'm just going to pop it up on my screen. Just a second. How's everybody's night going? There we go. Just so I can see everybody's comments. Welcome, welcome. Oh, thanks. They were last minute. All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know in the comment section if you guys can hear me. We're going to have some fun with Miss Norma Jean. Yay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Anne. All right. I swear to God, of all the days to get caught up, it's 5 p.m. here in Alberta, so a lot of you guys are in other states and provinces that are a little bit later, so I have to feed my family before I go live, otherwise I think they'll starve to death, or at least that's what they tell me. So I had to come home and shove food as fast as I could onto the stove and everything. So yeah, that was fun. All right. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, guys. Come on in and say hi. Hi, Aiden. All right. We're going to be using some fun products tonight. I am going to stick mostly to coloring, so I have kind of pre-prepped a card base, but I'll go over that first and then we'll get into coloring. Hi, Brenda. Nice of you to join us tonight. Okay. So, I started off our card today with a really simple and really easy background. Let me just see if my lights, because it's kind of catching it weird sometimes. Hang on, this might work. I have erasers for doing this just to tilt them out of the lights. Okay, so I started my card with just a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 white card base, and I took some pink ink and basically made an ombre effect. So it's very, very subtle. Very, very subtle. So I took the pink ink down from the top and I didn't even bring it all the way down to the bottom. So I started by doing that. Like very light hand. Very, very easy. Okay. Then I took our glorious Falling Heart stencil. This stencil is awesome. If you don't have it, make sure you get it. Took this stencil here and applied it to the front. And then I took some Nouveau Glacier paste. This is Golden Era. This stuff is yummy. And it adds a lot of glisten and glitter without flaking off like you would a glitter. So I used that through the stencil. And voila, we have a very, very simple background. And of course you have to let it dry, and that's partially one of the reasons why I made a duplicate for the Norma Jean that we're going to color tonight, so that she had some place to lie that was dry. Otherwise it probably wouldn't have been dry in time. So happy Valentine's Day, Dolores. Thanks for joining us. My husband and I don't really celebrate things like that, or it's low key, let's put it that way. We just go out for dinner. But he did buy me some chocolates. That was nice of him. What did you guys get for Valentine's Day? Or is this your present to yourself? All right. So let's get started on our coloring. Hi, Tammy. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So I have already stamped our glorious little lady in... I have used Memento Desert oh my god, can't even talk. Desert Sand ink. So it's almost a no line, but it's not. I got nothing. Oh, Aiden. Well, I'm sending you crafty hugs. So you got something from me. I know it's a little light on camera. Let me just see if I can tone my lights down just a bit here. That might help. And we'll come in a little bit closer too. All right. Just pulling stuff off my desk because things get in the way. Anne says, my hubby made me a Felix the Cat wood cutout. Oh, on a box filled with Cadbury cream eggs. Oh, he's a keeper. My husband knows I love chocolate, so he bought me just a box of chocolate. Okay. So we're coming in a little closer. And if I should go off the screen, just let me know in the comment section. Because my camera or my phone is above my eye level, so I can't see it. It's out of my vision, sort of. Tammy says we had a new heat system, AC and tankless water heater installed today. I guess that's my Valentine's gift after 25 years of marriage. You know what, Tammy? I can handle a gift like that. That'd be all right. Kevin says, Stephen and I just got back from sushi restaurant. That sounds yummy. And my son is on a date with his girl right now. Aww. That's nice. All right, my husband and I went out for dinner last week. We went out for steak and lobster because we have a place in town that does steak and lobster on Thursdays. So we celebrated ahead of time. Okay. So tonight we are going to start with, let's start with skin. And I will post a picture of a close-up of Norma Jean and the color list for you. Once the live is done in the comment section so that you guys have a reference to go back to see what colors were used. A quick reference so you can actually pull up the image and save it to your computer. Okay, skin. We are going to start with our darkest, which is an E13 and then an E11, an E02, and an E00. And the R20 is for cheeks, but that doesn't get added till last. Okay. You guys don't know this about me, but I'm a Jeep girl. Can you tell? My husband and I both have Wranglers. Alright. They're handy Copic holders. Alright. Let's get started here. And I always put my caps upside down. Oops. Okay, let's push this out of the way a little bit. Just a reminder, when you are doing your coloring, make sure that your image is in a comfortable place for you. Rotate your image to where it is comfortable for your hand. Don't injure anything. Okay, two Cherokees. Yeah, they're very popular too for off-roading, and that's one of our neighbors has a lifted off-road Cherokee. Okay, so again, E13. So what we're basically doing to start is to map out all the really, really dark and shaded areas. So this hair is coming up and over, so it's going to cast a shadow on her face quite far on her face, not close to the hairline because it's so high, right? It's almost like a barrel wave. But let's go down under her hair line here because it's much closer to her face. We're going to take a little bit of it down the side. I'm going to do a tiny flick just for her ear. And I am going to take a tiny bit into her eyelids. We are going to we're going to add all the dark marks back in because I haven't stamped with a black ink. We have to put those black or darker details in. We're going to go underneath her cheeks, just putting a tiny bit just to show curvature. She's going to have shadow underneath her chin. We're also going to put just a tiny little bit of a dark shadow down her dress line there. And you know what? I think I will work on all the skin at the same time. You can do like the face as one entity and then come back and do arms and chest and then legs, but since we got the marker out, right? Whatever's easiest for you guys. So her body is going to cast a shadow down the inside of her arm. So I'm gonna pretty much just trace the inside of her arm, and I'm gonna do just a tiny bit. Got her shoulder, just a tiny bit on this shoulder, tiny bit kind of up where her shoulder is on the other side. Her dress is going to cast a shadow right across her legs. And we're going to take a shadow from below the knee there. I'm going to do a little bit just to accentuate her legs. And we're going to also do knees on the other side. So the trick here is to really use the point of your marker. Get straight up and down with that point and light touches. Okay. If the video should stop, guys, just let me know as well, alright? Okay. So we're going to go down a shade. Next color is going to be E11. All right, for this marker, we're almost going to trace basically what we did, but extend. So I'm going to put my marker right into that E13 and pull it up into the E11. Okay, this smooths out your lines. I'm going to get a little bit more generous on this side. Doing the same, I'm touching that color. I think we'll actually pull it down right down her face, and we're going to put a little bit of this color right through her whole entire eyelid. Okay. And I think we will pull color from that edge of that hair. And this is why I try to do skin first, is because I can take that hair and cover any of those little teeny lines that get left. Oh, Tammy, why do I remove both caps? It's become a habit because I find that I have better ink control. It has to do with the temperature of my hands. If you're a warm-handed person, it tends to play around with the ink in your barrel. So if I have both ends open, it doesn't impact my ink as much. So you know how sometimes you get the blobs come out on your tips? Like you get a big drop, or they look really, really juicy and wet? Well, that also helps to not do that as well. So if you've got a really juicy marker, pull off both caps. I just find I have better ink control. All right. Now, proceeding down her other cheek here. Again, we're still on E11 and my cap is just fallen over. We're again going over that E15. I'm going to trace that hairline. Basically extending the ink across her face as a shadow. Oh, you're very welcome. So again, putting my marker over top of that darker brown, and you're basically going over top of it with your E11. So I'm assuming that this arm is very much in shadow, so I'm using a fair amount of that E11. I'm going to go out and across her shoulder. I'm also going to go down the full length of her arm right down to her hand, and I'm just going to use a little bit of the E11 to trace over that line. Okay, if you're doing a lighter skinned character, try doing a lighter ink. This is kind of a medium toned ink, I guess. All right, going down to her legs. So again, that dress is casting a shadow across her knees. I like to put, you know, the little knobby nibbies on her knees. So I'm going to use my E11 and go over top of that dark color. There's a little bit of shading down her legs. I tend to tell myself a story as to lighting. So for instance, she's out dancing and a lot of the light is coming from up above, because maybe she's at the disco and there's lighting from up above. So tell yourself a story, and sometimes that will help with laying down any one second here. Laying down your shadows. I'm just going across to give her some cheeks. Yes. And I know when you get that bloop and you're like, oh my god, I just spent like even 15 minutes coloring that thing. I can't believe it just blooped. Okay, this is E02. And I don't know why I always pull them off upside down every single time. Okay, this is going to be my main color of her skin. So there's going to be a lot of this color that comes out. I'm even going to go right over top of all of that E11 and E13. I'm going to go right up, almost into her hairline, just touching those ends of the hair. And I'm pulling ink across. We will blend this, I promise. I promise. We're going to go across her cheeks. And we're going to go right underneath her chin. Now, I want to take this. I want to make sure that she has whites around her eyes. So I'm going to take and draw like the edge of those whites, just so that I maintain that as white. Otherwise, you could really do funny things to her face. Hi, Lisa. Welcome, welcome. So I'm just going to flick in a little bit of color towards her nose. Okay, now let's set down the E02, and I'm going to come in right away with my E00. Okay, so this is my latest shade. Now, you have to be very careful. The more zeros in it, the more the blending solution. And blending solution can be naughty sometimes. So I'm going to start just by coloring over that blank area, because There's blending solution in anything that has lots of zeros in it. So you have to be very careful because you can actually take the color out of what you've gone over. Even though like the E02 is darker, the E00 can actually model or do funny things to your ink. And I'm not being very careful around her mouth. And this is partially why I do, if I'm going to do a light-skinned character, I start on skin because I can go over her mouth, and we will with darker, darker ink. Okay, so I'm back to my E02. So that E00 has really taken a fair amount of color out, and I'm okay with that, but I want to make sure that everything is blended a-okay. She is a hot girl, and she's pretty pink out on the dance floor, so we're just blending away. I'm going to give her a little bit more cheek again, and this is where you get to play. Right? It's only done when you say it's done. You can play and you can blend as much as you want. So I'm going to put my E02 down. Sometimes it's just easier to color over a mouth just because, number one, you're using light color, so you can color right over it anyway. Because I am going to go in with darker pinks, right? So, oh well, her tongue is slightly skin colored. Oh well. So again, you can play with this as much as you want. You can push and pull and layer, I mean, to your little heart's content. Okay? Now, if you have problems with coloring outside the lines in an area where you don't, like the whites of her eyes, which I tend to do, take your, this is my zero, my colorless blender, and I'm going to come in on the side where you don't want ink and put a little bit of ink to push it, not only eraser gunk down into the paper, but back as well. This is a lifesaver. It's incorrectly named, but it's a lifesaver. Okay, so we're going to go continue on down her body. I've got my E02. We're going to blend out those arms, that little area on her chest. I'm going to go down her other arm. And we're going to go down her legs. I'm going to leave a little area in the center, and we're going to blend that. And again, I'm going to go over with a fairly dark red over her shoes, so I'm not worried about coloring over top. Okay, this is our E00, and again, it has a lot of blender, so if you're thinking, oh my, I've got a little bit too much pink in there, then use your lighter color and go right over top of that. And it will push some of that ink back into the paper. Okay. Again, I'm going to do her whole entire leg. Again, lots of blender solution. So it's just going to push, push, push. Okay. If you like high contrast, then, you know, make sure you have anywhere from 3 to 5 colors when doing your skin. Okay? And really go in and find a really nice shadow. This is just an E or E00 or lightest. I'm just trying to soften some of those marker brush marks there. Okay, so let's go in and just add her cheeks while everything is there. And her cheeks, I'm going to do an R20. What do you guys like to use for cheeks? Everybody kind of has like a preference. So this is very close when layered to putting down that R02. So it's not going to be high contrast. I could put a little bit more down, but I think she's good. Okay, I went over her hair, and I really don't want too much pink. I could handle it because her hair is kind of in the brown tones, but I am going to go right over top of it. There we go. Okay, so we'll leave that one out, and we'll set these ones aside. Now, tonight, she's got a rockin' red dress. Try and leave your reds to last, okay? Trust me, you'll want to. Okay. So, hair. I'm going to start with the darkest shade, which is our E27. And then I'm going to work light again. So, this one is a very, very high contrast. Okay, so this is a color that you're going to use very, very sparingly. I think I'm on screen. So the next thing you have to tell yourself is tell a story about how your hair is folded, curled, tucked. Okay, so she's got this big wave, just like the surfers, right? This is all going to be in shadow back here. So we want to use this. Again, this is very, very dark. So sparingly. So your marker needs to be up and down for you to maximize the point, right? So if it's straight up and down, it's only hitting on the point. The more you angle it, the more marker you have on the paper. So if you want tiny itty bitties, up and down, and nice and slow. At least this part with the shadow. You can always go and add more. It's absolutely fine. And I am doing tiny, like look how tiny that is. Right underneath that curl of hair. I'm almost dotting it there at the end. Okay, just finish off. There's a little bit more underneath. Okay, so she's gonna have a tiny bit in her part, just ever so tiny, and you want to go in the direction of the hairs. See how her hair goes up and over? So just make sure you're doing your teeny tiny strokes in the direction of the hair. And again, you can add later. Okay, this is tucked behind this big curl, so it too is going to have quite a bit of contrast in here. I'm trying my darndest to stay behind that line of hair, and it's hard, so just take your time and move your image according to the direction that you flick your ink. Okay, so again, this curl comes around and it's almost like it's created a hole, so we need a little bit of shadow in behind, just a touch. Okay, there's going to be a tiny bit of shadow underneath the end of that curl. Just a tiny bit. Almost going to like underline it to indicate that there's a shadow there. Okay, there's another curl that comes in towards her face. This too is going to add a shadow to the back strands. Okay, so do the whole thing right underneath. And if you can only flick one direction, again, rotate that image. Some people can't flick in a forward direction, and that's okay. Just move that paper. There we go. There's a tiny bit of hair that goes behind. So I'm just going to just add just ever so slight. just a tiny bit. Now, her head, of course, is going to cast a shadow behind. So all of the hair that's sitting in behind needs a little bit of that shadow. Now, not only is it shadow, but it's also going to make her face stand out and become foreground. Or it appears like her face pops forward because you're putting contrast against. Because this would be an extreme shadow. Same with this part behind her head. Right here. So there's a little bit of her dress. But this would have an extreme shadow because all of that gorgeous hair is going to be completely tucked behind this big wave. So I'm just going to almost underline this, giving it a little bit at the tippy of that curl. And I have forgotten this side because with it going behind her body, this too is going to be in shadow, which again pulls her arm forward, and it now appears that her hair is now tucked behind. Okay, I'm going to go down the back of her other arm, and I hope you guys can't hear this, but my husband has decided to use his pull down bar, and it is connected to the floor not too far from where my feet lie. I don't know if you can hear the zzz in the background or not. I hope you can't. Okay. So we're kind of working our way around her head here. Now, we have this little curl. So this casts a shadow on the hair that's behind. So I'm just tracing the end of that curl. If you have to go back, if you're losing your lines because your ink is light, go back to your original stamp. Mine's tucked in here. And just go, oh, and go back to look at the detail if you need to. Or stamp yourself out a black version. You don't hear anything? Yay! Good, I'm glad. And then you have a quick reference, just in case those lines seem to disappear on you. I'm going to put a little tiny bit underneath that curl. Now, there is a very small part tucked behind her ear, and it would completely almost be in shadow. So, again, I'm trying to use that tip and go in very fine. And I forgot to color her ear. Oh, gee. I'm going to have to go back. That's okay. And of course, now he's starting up again. All right. So again, all of that hair behind her ear is going to be in shadow. I am quickly going to color her ear E11 to kind of do that inner, a little bit of E02 and finish it off. I always do that. I don't know about you guys, but I always seem to forget like the teeny tiny. It's like, oh yeah, she has ears. Oops. All right. Now we can actually take just a tiny bit just to accentuate that curve, and we will use a darker brown to differentiate between her face and that curl. There's a little wraparound here, so it too would have a tiny bit of shadow. And this is where you can kind of go, oh, she's got a pretty little kind of divot. You know how when you tuck your hair behind your ears, sometimes you get kind of like a funky little curl. So we're going to give her a funky little curl, and we'll do that by creating a low point in her hair. So just using that marker, and you can change the length of your strokes. Just makes things look more natural. And what we're doing is we're pushing back that hair just by adding shading. I hope that makes some sense, and it will as we put more colors and as we kind of push and pull things forward and backwards. Okay, so that's our E27. That is our very darkest. We are now going to go with an E37. So we have a 5 color blend. Excuse me, I have like a hiccup. That we are going to use. So let's go back to her big wave. And I'm going to now use our second darkest. And we want to ensure that your pen goes into that. And you're going to flick in the direction and the curvature of her hair. So it's not straight, is it? It's not like, it's actually curved. So you want to have your tip of your marker copy that direction. And again, make sure that your hand is in a comfortable position. If you can't flick away, you like to flick towards, then change your paper. Change the direction that your image is sitting. So I'm just going over that tiny little bit and see how it's changed now in direction. You too need to change the direction that your stroke is leaving. And again, take your time. Okay, let's go back and do this. So it's quite recessed, it's like a bowl. So you're going to pass your E37 through that darker brown. And again, doing the same, we're going to flick it towards. And my nib is not cooperating. Just going to color it off just a bit here. We are going to die cut her out. So my E37 is not playing nice with me today. This probably needs to be filled. So I'll see if I can tolerate it. I'm going to put a teeny, just the slightest little bit on her tip, just to accentuate the shape. Okay. We are going to go to this curl, the outside, and we're going to add this color, our E37. And I may have to switch out this marker because this is not fun. When a marker is dry, it does not give you the proper ink application. And therefore you won't blend it either. So I might have to go and swap this out before I go any farther. 1 second here. Let's see. Something close to an E37. Let's just double check. Oh, that's pretty close. Okay, so we're going to switch it out for an E29, and I will make a note of that on here. Oh, you know what? That's a little too dark. Sorry. Sorry. I wonder. Okay, that's way better. Sorry. E59. So I gotta go back. I'm okay with what we did there, but we're going to continue on. So flick in the direction and vary the lengths of your flicks because it looks more natural. Okay, I am going to put a little bit. All right. This one is a little juicier than the other one. Okay, we're going to go on the outer curl and come in. This one definitely has a lot more ink in it, that's for sure. And just pulling that around that corner. So this appears to be tucked behind. So you want to flick in that direction. This goes behind her body, so it too is going to be in shadow. And because it's fairly recessed, this is going to have a fair amount of our E59. Okay. All right, let's go in to this area here. And this is fairly small. And we can almost, I'm just going to go in underneath her chin just to flatten out that line a little bit, because it's a little bit jagged from my marks. And this is where you get a little facelift. I'm almost going to make that area disappear. Almost. Okay. I've left just a tiny, tiny bit. I am going to trace her arm just a little bit, just to make that line smoother. We're going to flick that bottom curl, and again, go with that curl. Go with the shape of the hair. It takes practice. I mean, I still work hard at it. Okay, so we're going to take this outside. Sometimes I even trace that curl first and then flick out. Should go high. There we go. Okay, so this is our funny one which we've created. So it's a depression. So it's a little scoop of hair. So her hair is coming up and off of her part as a bubble, and it's going back into a valley, and then we're going to have highlights in through here. So let's start by getting rid of this one little spot right behind her ear, and we're literally just going to fill it right in. It's going to be so dark in contrast that it's gone. You don't even notice it anymore. So we're going to flick around our curl. This is our E59. So we're going to do the same thing from this bowl or this valley in her hair. So I'm just going out from the center, because there's a dark spot, okay, which makes it look deeper. We're just creating the curve out. Okay, we're going to go into her part. It's going to be very, very little. So I'm keeping my strokes tiny. Again. Do you guys have any questions? I just blobbed. Oh no, no. No, not the blob. I haven't had a blob in a long time, and I just refilled a lot of my markers, so I got my fingers crossed tonight. Okay, we're going to our mid-tone. So the mid-tone, it would be the true color of, well, I can't really say that because it would be the majority color of her hair, because when you say true color, it means that somebody has hair all the same color, and I've never met anybody with all the same color, because you always have lows and highs in your color of your hair. Now, the reason why we didn't put any of our darks up here is because those areas, if she was under those disco lights, would be very bright. Okay, so we're going to go back to her big curl of a wave, and I'm going to start down here, and I am putting my brush nib right into that color, because it's just going to make that blend that much more realistic. And again, I want you to think about your length of your brush strokes. So make some long, some short, and don't forget the curvature. See how those lines are curving more? Try and maintain those curvatures. And it's okay to have white left, because it just makes that hair look that much more natural. So point straight up and down, or as much as you can get it. So you're using the tippy of that brush and pulling that color down into the wave. Okay, so this time we're going to add just a little bit of color coming up. I want a little tiny bit of color coming up from her hairline, but only minimal. And you can start leaving gaps as you get closer to this edge. And again, vary your line length. There. Okay. So see how that barrel wave is starting to form now? Because there's high contrast. There's a lot of shadow. Okay, so we're going to take this, our E55, and we're going to now add some color to her big top coif. All right, so this you're going to have to play with. And I'm almost skipping. See how my lines stop and start? And you can either pull or push, whatever kind of is easiest for you. So I'm putting a few darker lines because we're going to come in with, we still have 2 more browns to put in her hair. But I want some contrast. I want some texture in that top. Okay, so now we're going to work from her like little pointy back up. Oh, this cracks me up. Okay, from her point. Nice flicks around the corner. Vary that length. Otherwise things look funny. Now we'll put just like we did over here, her hair, at least in my story, is going to have a little bit of a valley. So I'm just going to flick out one way, and then we're going to flick back the other. And that, of course, creates that valley, right? And in this case, I'm going to go right over top my ends to blend those fake hairs. Put a few more in the background. So there. So now the light is catching kind of the inside of the curl. It's doing a little dip. You could actually put your dip a little bit farther down, but whatever. But now it has more flow, if that makes sense. And of course you can work that as much as you want. Okay, so let's go back into her little bowl of hair here. Again, I'm touching that previous brown color with my tip. This helps blend it. And I still have some white showing. Okay, let's work on our curl going this way. So again, I'm going to dip my ink into that line of previous medium ink, trying to blend it in. You can actually, because that's kind of that dry spot that I had, I'm actually going to color right over it and blend it even more so. Again, maintain that curve. Sometimes you have to fake it. Alright, so we're going to go from that tip back. And do a little bit from this side. And you can leave as much highlight as you want. Okay? All right, so again, we're working dark spot, put your tip in the dark. This is going to be a very dark part underneath because again, it's her whole head is blocking that light. And if you want to go back and add in a little bit more of that darker tone, you can. So again, drawing out of those dark tones back towards the light. Okay, so again, I'm just going to color right over that little itty bitty tiny section there. It's minuscule. So this one, I'm going to put a highlight kind of through the top. So I want to make sure that I maintain a white space for now anyway. There we go, just flicking. And we're going to take this color, and this is going to be the end of her, this particular wave in her hair. If you have to slow down, slow down. I find these curves unnerving sometimes because sometimes I just can't match. Hi Kelly. So try your best, do what you can do and keep trying. I practice and practice, and you know what guys, I don't even think some days as like I look at my work and I'm it's like, oh, I wish I had done a better job. But, you know, I still learn after 15 years. 1 second here. Okay, so we've only got 2 more spots to really look at. I might add a little bit more to her big wave there. So, again, we're pulling straight through. Hi, Teak Teak. My kitty's behind me. So's my hubby. Hey, honey.
Hello.
Okay. So, putting your tip right into that area, drawing out that color. And if you think you need, like there's not, this doesn't blend well, like this is really light in comparison to this, go and find another marker that works, or do some tip to tip. Do you guys know what tip to tip coloring is? I'll show you in 1 second here. So if you're missing markers, say I was missing shades of brown that in between these two, like see how much contrast there is between these two, our last one and this one. If I didn't have a marker that would work, what I could do, I think I got the right marker here. I think it's my 37. Okay, so you open up your other marker and you take your lighter marker. So this is my E55 and this is my E37, and you're going to take the tip of your marker and you're going to color it to, it doesn't even matter which end, whichever end has most ink. And this is what happens is you get a secondary color in between these two because you've now taken the inks and combined them together. So that's how you work with not having all the colors. You don't need all the colors. So you can take that, and now that becomes your mid-tone between those two. So just by taking that lighter marker, and you kind of have to work with it, you can create that mid-tone color without going to find another marker. Okay, so it just helps with blending too. So if things are there's too much contrast, try tip to tip. Okay? Alright, now I have to make sure I put the right cap on it. I don't know about you guys, but I have actually put the wrong caps on them. Okay, let's go back and I'm just going to add just a little bit more of our E55 to our barrel of hair here. or barrel wave. I'm just extending that color down because there's a little bit too much white space just for my mind. So, you know what? You could technically even stop here with hair. I mean, that's pretty good contrast. I think I will go in and play with those later. But you know what? It's not bad. Not bad. All right. So there is one more color in our hair. And this is, I almost use this almost like a blender. So this is an E35, and this is a quick one. So I'm just going to knock back a little bit more of those highlights. Lose a little bit more of your white. And if you want to, you can completely get rid of your white. And that's completely fine. In some areas, I will get completely rid of that white. And if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Okay, so I'm going to go in and the top of her coif. Just going to pass. This is very, very light. This does have blender solution in. As your last number on your marker gets lower, so closer to 0, the more the blending solution is in the marker ink. Okay? So again, just knocking back, like in some of those deeper, darker areas, I'm going to get rid of that white altogether. And then some areas I'm going to leave it. Like I like the white in that little area there. But this area should be darker. So I'm going to knock back all of the white in there. And this is the fastest color for hair because you're just basically just coloring right over top. There's no flicking, no masterful anything. Right, I am going to put a little bit more in there. There we go. And that helps to blend things too. And if you lose a little bit of your line work because you've worked to add that texture, one second, then go back in and add texture with a next darker marker. Oh, Kelly, yes, this is, and I will post a picture like I said at the beginning. This is just the list of colors that I use, and I will post a picture of Norma Jean and this next to it so that you guys know what I used. Okay, so this is very high contrast. Let me bring in my other one. So for instance, see how different she is. So this is my original. See, there's a lot more mid-tone in her hair. So you can go and add more mid-tone to take your darks into your lights a little bit better. Okay? But you know what? It's okay to leave it like this. You know, everybody's hair is different. Everybody's light source is going to be different. So, ta-da! That's the way it goes. All right. So let's work on eyeballs. So I may come back and work on that mid-tone. Oh, we'll see. Okay, for her eyes, because they are so light in color because of our ink, this is where you get to have fun with eyes. So because she's wearing a red dress, excuse me, I have a hiccup. I wanted her to have green eyes because red is opposite the color wheel for green. They are complementary colors. So her eyes will stand out a great deal when it comes to her red dress. So we're going to now, and again, you can fill in the complete eye. You don't have to put a circle in the center because the circle for the pupil is going to be black. So I'm going to color in, I know this is going to look really weird, like really weird. I'm going to color in her eyes, but I'm going to leave 2 chunks empty, and I'll show you in a second why. So this is G12, G12. Just trying to maintain that pie-shaped highlight. And again, we may have to use our blender pen. Okay, so I'm going to go to B01. And we're going to fill in those pieces of pie that we left uncolored. So it kind of looks like she has like hazel eyes. So she has a combination of blue and green. And you can, oh, I think I'm going to have a visit from my Tico. I have this feeling she's going to walk across. Oh, I can hear her off to my left here. Are you coming? Yeah. She's purring in my ear. Okay. So now let's add a pupil, and you can use anything for this. You can go and use a Copic. I'm actually going to use a multi-liner just because multi-liners have that finer point. Just have to find the right one. We're just out of reach here for me. Yep. Yeah, I'll see if I can get her to come on camera. Come here. Come here. She's just sitting off to my left here. Hi. Oh, no, she's gonna lie next to me. She's lying on top of my Copics. Okay, so we're gonna add in a pupil. So just literally draw a circle. Don't make it too big. Okay. Just add a pupil to her eyeballs. And yeah, try and make them the same size. There, that's not too bad. There's nothing worse than having a poor person that has two different size pupils. It looks funny. Alright, mouth. Let's do that before we forget here. For the mouth, I like to do E04 for the back of the mouth. So basically you're going to cover up that dark portion of ink. So you're just redrawing in kind of like the back of the throat. And then we'll put in her tongue. Alright, so there we go. And then tongue, I'm going to do an R22. A nice, bright, healthy looking pink tongue. Oh, Tico, you pretty girl. You just want to watch Mommy color. Alright, let's work on her dress. And then we just have dress and shoes, and then we're going to go back and accentuate her lashes. Okay. So her dress is all reds. So this one is a 4 color. We're going to start with R39 for our deep dark shadows, R46, R24, and an R22. Yep, we're going to go pink. Okay. Let's move these ones out of the way. Alright. Okay. Deepest, darkest shadows first. Where are those deep dark shadows? And reds are very unforgiving. Please be careful with your reds. Okay. So, we're going to start with the upper part of her dress and we're going to work down. She is going to have a lot of shadow at the top of her dress, between her dress and her neck. Okay. She's going to have quite a bit of shadow down that arm. We're even going to put a little bit kind of down the V, because it appears that the shoulder is kind of back farther, so we're going to give a little bit more shadow to that side of her dress. She is going to have shadow underneath that arm, so just trace underneath the arm and then down the side of her dress. And we're just going to kind of trace over the belt of her dress. We're going to do kind of the other side of her dress at her waist and trace that as well. Now, pleats. Just give me a second here. Somebody's... oh, where is the... Okay. So you kind of have to look at how the pleats and what's the story on the pleats. So if you look, she has a really, really deep, small pleat here. So that one's going to be in a lot of shadow. This pleat in the center sits over top of this pleat. Same with this one. This one sits over top of this one, and so on and so forth. So look at what the dress is telling you at the bottom, and then design it with your shadows in mind from the top. Okay, I have to be very careful with this one. Okay, so remember that this one's going to be very deep and dark in color. That really tiny one. This one, not so much. This one, maybe a little bit longer. I'm just tracing kind of the bottom of the belt there. Again, this one's going to be fairly long, and this one's actually going to be on the other side. Okay, I'm going to put a tiny bit kind of at the base of that one, and just a little bit, just to accentuate those folds. Okay, so that's our darkest. We're going to go next darkest, or next lightest, I guess, R46. So there's a fair amount of contrast between these two markers. So go over top of your previous color. Okay. So I'm going over top and extending the lines of her dress. Go over top of shadow colors. And we're going to work from underneath kind of her armpit and out. Okay. We're going to add a little bit to her belt. And this is where we get to have fun with her folds. So again, let's start with that skinny one, because it's going to be a very dark pleat because it's folded with two folds over top of it. So it's recessed quite a bit. So I'm even going to come up from the bottom where we put that dark mark. Okay, so I'm going to work over. This one is on top of this one. We work off this side. And this one I'm going to go right down to the bottom, and I'm going to have to fix that line. And that's what happens. And extend that line, and work up. So what I'm trying to do is maintain the highlights on the folds that are sitting on top. Okay. And I can almost go to the bottom. And this one. There we go. I'm going to add a little bit of red down the center. And this one we're going to do the outermost edge. Okay. I'm just trying to kind of go over the lines of the dress. I'm going to actually trace these particular folds down at the bottom. Just a hint here. Okay. Oh, I'm going to extend that just a little bit here. Okay, so that is our second darkest. I'm going to go to R24. Okay, it's going to be a lot of R24 because we're going to use our lightest color to knock back any white spots. So I'm going to make sure that her V is done. We're going to go right across, leaving that belt showing. So we still have a little bit of color left. That's our highlight. Going over top of that previous red for a nice smooth blend. Make sure you go right into that deep dark fold there. So it's nice and blended. And this one is a blend towards the top, because if you look at the bottom, see how these two folds are sticking out? That's how you know which one's on top. Okay. So with this one, you're going to go up to the top and blend. Just want to knock back a little bit of that white line. Pull that ink across. Okay. Now this one, the highlight would be on that part of her dress. So this one is going to come right down to the edge almost. You can go over and over. Again, if you need to go tip to tip, absolutely. This is kind of like a hollow in the dress. So we want to maintain highlights on both sides, and then we're going to do like the last bit of her, kind of her tushy part of her dress. And take that right down. Making sure that I'm going over top of my stamping lines. Okay, so let's do our very, very last. Almost done, guys. Almost done. I am a little bit over time. Generally, I try to keep these to an hour. Okay, so we're knocking back all those white spots. Okay, so this is the easy and the fast part. Just make sure that you get the blend that you want. Go over that previous R24 to get a nice blend, but not over it too much. Just still want to maintain that red color. I love how the R24 and the R22 do a lovely little blend. It's just beautiful. Okay, and you know what? Shoes will take just a moment. Okay, we're using exact same color combo. We're going to go back to the R39. Just going to trace the outside of her shoes. I'm going to do a thin line here and a thicker line here. And that's just to maintain a certain shadow. And then we're going to work our way in from our R46. I'm going to do a little R46 on this side, a little bit chunkier R46 on this side, a little thinner R46, and again, I'm going over the previous color. Oh. Okay, R24. This is the majority, because this is almost like the true red, right? Because that R22 is a pink. So you don't want a huge amount of the pink, because their shoes are red. Okay, and last but not least, our last R22, the quick blendy bendy. And then one last little thing. Now, when you don't stamp in a dark color, you lose some of your stamp details. So I like to go back in and add some of those details, especially her cute little lashes. Now, before I do that, excuse me, I'm going to add just a touch, and this is a Payne's Gray, just colored pencil. So you can use, even, you know what, even a lead pencil would do this just fine. I'm just going to give her a darker edge around her eyes. It seems to accentuate them, makes them pop, and you just see them a little better. And then I'm going to go in and add just a tiny bit of shadow around eyes. And my pencil isn't that fabulously sharp, but I'm going to put her lashes back in because she has the most glorious lashes. And it's okay that they're not stark black. Okay? Sometimes just having the hint of them there, and of course the majority of them are tucked behind her hair here, so you only kind of get a hint of them. But there you go. And you know what? Sometimes I go in and just add a little bit of darkness to the back corners of the mouth, right over top that pink. Still seems to maintain its pinkness. But, yeah. So, I'm going to quickly... Ba-ba-da-da! Thank goodness for outline dies. Ba-ba-da-da! Okay, find the sweet spot. Put a little bit of low-tack tape. I'm gonna not trust myself and do a second one. And quickly cut her out. Sorry, I have my machine off screen. It doesn't fit underneath my camera real well. Alright. And the magic. Whoa, and the crowd goes wild. Alright, so I have my little background here. We're going to make this super duper easy. And we're going to use a wet adhesive. And I have to tell you, I got my Stamp Anniething glue, and it must have gotten frozen in the mail because it turned to like solidified jello. So I'll have to go and purchase some more glue when the weather's a little warmer. Yeah. And those things happen, right? Okay. I know, where would we be without our outline dies? Aww. Okay. Da. Da 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 da. And I even prepped the cute little sentiment that is in the stamp set. And it says, "You're iconic," with some red ink. And she's all ready to go for you guys. We're gonna pop it up on some foam tape. And there we go. There's Miss Norma Jean. Isn't she adorable? So the next time you want to get out in color, I hope I've provided you with some tips for adding shades and shadows. And you can try maybe a different background, or try eyes a little differently, or maybe you learned something about folds. So, thank you so much for joining me today. I very much appreciate that you've come to join me. And if you're on the replay, thanks for tagging along, and I'll see ya real soon. Take care, guys, and happy Valentine's Day.